came to the United States from Germany when he was 4 years old with his mother and his sister because his father was already here in Ohio.
Okay.
And they had quite an adventure coming by ship. Then when the Civil War came about, he joined the Union Army, the 9th Cavalry, and it was a unit of German soldiers, and none of them were citizens. And he fought in that war for 3 years.
And why did he choose here?
He loved it. He describes it. He said the prairie, just beautiful, standing there in front of me. So Frederick got off the train in Garden City, and as the story states, all the men were out fighting a prairie fire, so he joined them fighting the fire and stayed, and then had his family come. He was able to buy a couple of lots on Main Street. George was had great respect for his father. I know that, and his mother. And I know that he had a very giving personality. He donated books to all the school libraries. And on Thanksgiving, he would have a Thanksgiving dinner for all the children in town, and he would sometimes have an orchestra play for them. He donated 111 acres of land to the city for Finnett Park in honor of his father. And of course the park still exists today, and that's where a zoo was placed, and it's a real benefit to Garden City.
He offered bonds to all the churches in town?
Yes, a $1,000 bond to all the churches in town so they could beautify their grounds. He donated the lot where a library was placed, a Carnegie Library, and he really believed in Garden City and wanted to help in any way he could.
Well, now I'll tell you, this area was good at that time as far as you didn't hear any starvation stories or anything that bad.
But very dry, wasn't it? There was some...
They had, the dry times was in, the dirty 30s. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Those dust storms would come up, and we'd try to get to the house and be in the house when it was coming. It'd be so dark we'd have to light kerosene lamps, And
I remember even as a young lad remembering looking out and the big dirt clouds coming in.
So you would see the dust coming?
You could see it coming. It just kind of rolled. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. It just seemed like it rolled like this. You could see it a long ways away. And it was just as quiet as it could be until that hit. You've seen snow drift up against buildings and anything that will stop it. The dust was the same way. We had piles of dust against everything. And then each year after the storms were over, we had an old grader that at that time the county had graders that they used horses with.
To grade the roads.
And then when they quit using the horses, well, then they sold those old graders, and my dad bought one of them. So that's what we used to. It had a long blade. That blade was 12 feet long, I think. And we just go along and level those piles of dirt down.
Huh.
It was just like snow. The dust was just like snow is now.
Wow. And so I think you also said that it wasn't very healthy and you could get sick from breathing it.
Yeah. My dad, it bothered him more than all the rest of us for some reason. He really got bad.
Did he get pneumonia?
Yeah, they call it dust pneumonia.
Wow. So you were born in 1921.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think your earliest memory is?
One of my earliest memories is seeing my sister that was born 2 years after I was. They had a doctor come to the farm, and I just remember seeing her after the doctor left. They had my brother and I. We had this. I remember we stayed out. There wasn't any other place to be to stay out of the house. It wasn't a very big house out there that time. So we sat in the car while this was going on.
While she was being born?
Right.
So you had a car.
Yeah.
You had a car.
Model T cars.
Okay.
Garden City was just such a pretty little town and so manageable and simple. And I mean, the street that we grew up on in Gillespie, all the neighbors, we knew each other, and everybody lived on their front porches. And it was just a friendly community. And we could ride our bicycles up to the grocery store. We could ride our bicycles anywhere in town because it was so small. So it was really a very happy, warm time for
And
me.
safe, it sounds
and
like.
safe.
What was your day like? So did you get up in the morning and go straight to school, or did you have to go to work first and
Milk cows.
milk
first.
cows? What time?
What?
What time did you get up?
Around 6:30.
Okay.
School I started at 9.
And how old were you when you started milking cows?
I think 7.
Every day?
Morning and night.
Morning and night. Okay.
The kids all worked till I was young.
So most of the kids at the school were farm kids?
Yes,
Yeah.
all of them worked.
So you all went to work before you went to school,
Yes.
and then you all went back to work at the end of your school day?
After school was over, well, it was all we had to do was milk cows again.
Okay.
Feed the hogs.
Feed the hogs.
I always wanted to farm, and then wanted to have livestock. We'd go down to Texas or else New Mexico or Colorado and buy lambs. Usually we call it a band of them, but usually about 1,000 to 1,100 we'd buy get at a time.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And so you'd bring the lambs back and
Ship them back on the train, and we also had a ewe herd, and we raised lambs.
So I got to work in feeding the cattle, and at the sale barn, I had an accident, and when I come out of it, I was still on crutches. Why, I started buying cattle, and I started soliciting cattle for our fat cattle auction. Yeah, and made a life out of it, and there was no. That's where I have really been blessed with a job that I loved it as much on the last day as more so than the first day.
So let's talk about your childhood now in Garden City. Your mother goes to work in the fields, and you...
Well, at that time, they didn't have child care.
Okay.
So she would take me with her. And so I would
On
spend...
your back, or...
No, just by that time I could walk.
Okay.
And I could eat. and so I just would spend all day out there with her.
Uh-huh.
And when I got old enough that I could do some of the work, then I worked
Then you started
too.
working. Tell me about a typical day of working in the fields.
Going out early before it got too hot and working out in the field. This was when the beets were just growing. But that even happened once they grew, and 'cause then there were knives where you had to cut the tops off and throw them to the side, and then there would be someone with a machine picking them up so they could take them and process them.
Well, I can remember when we used to go to grocery stores, we used to go around and pick up what we wanted to buy, you know, or my parents did. And it's a whole lot like it is now. Now all the stores now, I guess, just have those buggies to push around to get your groceries in. But way back, we didn't have that, and you just go up to the counter and tell them what you wanted, and then you go back and get it and bring it up to the county.
Oh, you didn't go get it. People would get it for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when we weren't buying everything we used. We made it ourselves a lot of the time.
So that's a big change. You used to
Yeah, it
make a
was.
lot more of what you used.
Yeah,
Butter, cream.
you always had our own butter. Yeah, we never had any, very seldom ever had any other kind of bread except homemade.
Uh-huh.
It's still the best, but no many people make it anymore.
41, but he was out here most of the time, and he saw time after time the possibilities of irrigation beyond the river valley, and talked to many farmers. There were a couple of well drillers that drilled the oil field method, straight rotary method, and drilling small wells, and there was irrigation on the highland, but not very much, and not too successfully. The method that my dad did not invent, but was an early user, was invented by the George E. Failing Company out of Enid, Oklahoma, and it was called reverse circulation drilling. And there was great value to this because the reverse circulation did not allow the cuttings to flow and plug up the wall of the hole that you've just drilled. You flowed water into the hole and you sucked it up like with a big straw on the inside of the pipe. So all of the material you did not want to be in touch with the sand and gravel, which was what produced the water, it never touched the sand and gravel. So it kept it clean. We established that in this area, and it became the way to drill then by the big booms of the 50s and 60s.
I see.
But it turned out that we could only drill that way down to a couple of 100 feet, and then the friction and the problems of going too deep developed. So he came up with what we called air-assisted reverse circulation, and we released large volumes of air inside the drill pipe. This lightened the column of fluid inside the drill pipe and caused the fluid to come around and up into the drill pipe, taking the cuttings with it. And it was a miracle. It was amazing. So it was a revolutionary change because of irrigation.
Right.
The cattle industry thrived, and corn started being grown here. Corn was not grown here because of the lack of water. Milo, alfalfa, a few other crops were, but corn was not. And many people said it just will not grow out here. It's too hot. It's the seasons are not good, and it takes a lot of water. And of course, we agreed with that and said we will supply the water. God can supply it. We'll bring it to the surface. Yeah, God's given us the opportunity, the ability to respond to changes in the situation, and the farmers have certainly done that, as they have in many industries. If you can't do it one way, do it another way.
My father came out to Scott County,
Okay.
and so that's when he started his whole career of how do we irrigate and how do we get water on this ground, and he did it. And so now here we are with Pivot Irrigation and massive farming in western Kansas. He just knew that there absolutely had to be a way to feed cattle and grow the grain to feed the cattle. And instead of cattle coming in and being transported by train, why couldn't we grow them here in the western part of the state? And then, I mean, he knew that eventually that the meat packing plants would come in. And he was an extraordinary visionary man.
Well, at first, the black people had to go up to the balcony. And anybody that wasn't white, what they call white, that was an awful thing to happen. Most everybody I know of that ever went to them, they didn't like that. Well, motels or hotels, that showed up more.
I see.
Somebody that wasn't white had a hard time getting a room or getting a place to stay if it stayed old. That was one of the worst things that ever happened in this country.
There were two Mexican neighborhoods.
Okay.
I lived in the one on Santa Fe, and then there was the one south,
Okay.
if that's south.
Okay.
And there were two Mexican neighborhoods. And the children that did come to school, then we would all walk as a group sometimes.
Okay.
And even if we didn't, it kind of became like a group because, but the bad thing was we had to cross the railroad tracks, but a lot of times there were just cars just standing there, but we would crawl underneath.
Underneath the railway cars?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And so we could, that's the only way we could start walking and get to Hutchinson School.
And was it mostly Mexican children or a mix of
It
everyone?
was a mixed, because I remember I was like in the 4th grade, and there came a letter that said white school. And I guess I was inquisitive. And I asked my teacher, her name was Mrs. Riston. And I said, what, do we have a white school here? And she says, Lupe, you don't understand what that means, but I'm going to explain it to you. That means only white children are going to school, and no black children. I guess, and no Mexicans, only white students, because this came like from Maryland. This letter, and she said, so we have to tell this person that wrote this letter that we don't have schools like that here. Everybody that lives here can come to school.
Okay.
By the time I got to be like a junior in high school, things were changing already. And by the time I graduated, it had really changed. I mean, you could go in places where before Mexicans weren't allowed.
Okay. And how about you? Did you go to work as a teenager? Did you do anything to earn money?
Yeah, would you believe I applied at a restaurant? I couldn't eat there, but I went to apply. And they hired me. But I could tell that some of the customers kind of resented a Mexican going to take their order, you know. And eventually I decided I don't have to work there. I want to work where I feel comfortable. And so I quit. But the owner came back and said, Lupe, we really need your help. Can you come back? But by then, what I did was get a part-time job at the hospital.
I don't really remember the pool, although I do believe that the Hispanics did not swim or could not swim in the pool. But I do know that we had a Hispanic girl that helped out my mom and my grandma, and she babysat. And when she would take us to the movie, we sat in the balcony, and I thought that was the greatest thing ever, you know? But I never realized it was because we had to sit in the balcony.
When Iowa Beef Packers came in 1980, that was a major change in Garden City because it took many people to come in to operate that plant. So we had so many Vietnamese people, Laotians. There were 5 or 6, but mostly at the time it was Vietnamese. And so we had many Vietnamese families come in. And this was after the Vietnam War, and so many, were here. And so Garden City had to move very quickly and get their infrastructure adjusted, the school system. And then we did see it was difficult for the older Garden Cityans because here was our pretty little town. And then all of a sudden we have an influx of not just Vietnamese, but just a mix. And so we had to learn how to adjust to all of that, and we did. I'm going to give Garden City and Finney County fair credit. We did a great job of that.
My dad wrote poetry, my sister wrote poetry.
Oh, really?
I wrote my first one. Of course, my dad told me what it was, but when I was 7 years old. My sister's name was Ethel Jean, and the poem that I wrote was, as sure as the vines grow round the rafter, Ethel's the girl the boys are after. That was it. Remember them good old days? Man, I'm glad they're gone. When we chopped kindling to start a fire, now we just turn the gas on. Come home for lunch, use a microwave. If it only takes a minute. Pull it out of the package and put it in if it doesn't have metal in it. Drive to work under air condition or a heater if it's cold. Watch the market on TV to tell you when you should have sold. Instead of reading the paper about a week too late, calves were selling for 32 and you took 28. We don't have to gather eggs, don't have to milk a cow, don't have to fix a hog pen from some chicken-eating sow. The sheets would freeze dry on the clothesline, and all winter we were breaking ice. Now we have a washer and dryer, and Mom sure thinks they're nice. We load hay with a tractor, hardly ever use a fork. We clean the cattle water tanks by just pulling out a cork. We go out and start a feed truck, don't have to harness a team and worry about a runaway or a mule that's about half mean. We don't have to babysit orphan calves, don't have to carry coal. Maybe we don't have enough to do, and that's why we're feeling old. Thank you. When I was just a kid, I'd wait by the door for my dad to come in after doing the chores. Waiting for supper, wherever he sat, I would ask if I could wear his hat. It made me feel real big when I wore it outside. I'd say to the other kids, "Come on, men, let's ride." For as long as I could remember, they all were shaped the same, regardless of color, quality, or name. If you didn't have your hat on, whether straw or felt, you weren't really dressed, regardless of boot or belt. He told stories of fanning a bronc and throwing it under a colt that someone else was riding and hoped to see him bolt. If he ever threw it down, he was ready to make a stand. But when he addressed a lady, it was always in his hand. In his 98 years, no telling how many he went through, I've still got his last one, and he died in 92. No matter what the reason, no matter where I was at, there was always something that made me feel real good when I got to wear Dad's old hat.
And I would talk to the parents and tell them, encourage your children to go to school, because they're going to need this education as they grow up. The field work one of these days is going to end, but they need an education to be able to handle other kinds of jobs. I said, and you as a parent are the only one that can encourage them, and they believe you, and to do as well as they possibly can, because it's important.
You're a great believer.
Yes, I became a great believer of education. I said, because these children are going to help run the country, but we need people that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, encourage them that school is not just I'm going to school. I'm going to school, but I'm learning something. I said, and if they hear it from you, they believe it.
Did you work?
I said, because we need Mexican doctors, we need Mexican lawyers, we need all kinds of jobs, but in order for them to accomplish this, they have to go to school.
It's kind of a melting pot. There's all kinds of different nationalities here. It's kind of everything kind of, like they say, melt together, and they all get along well. I hope they always do, but as far as I know, they do now.
I'm not going to say it's going to be that everything has been all roses and it's going to continue to be. There's challenges, but I think we're fortunate enough in Garden City that we have the county and city government that works well together. Our nonprofit organizations, we all work really well together. And so I think that will help lead Garden City in the future.